All right, thanks for joining me today. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com, and today we're going to be talking about the human right for housing, and we're going to make an argument on an international level and on a U.S. level. Now, again, this might invoke some of you that are religious or possibly political. I'd ask that we keep that in reserve. This is not to side with anybody. This is just to make the topic in a general manner. All right, before we get started, I'm going to put up a few links in the live chat. If you're not used to live chat, then you may find that you can chat or type into your phone, your TV, or other device. Some people report that it's a little bit more difficult when it comes to utilizing the phone to chat. Our website and for appointments. And I'm also going to let you guys know, besides the video itself, I do consulting work and have done so for quite a while, and I work with clients that are low incomes with Section 8 housing and so on. So that will be the premise of the video. Now, obviously, we're going to cover everybody, but we're going to be primarily focusing on people that, with housing for a right for people that are retired seniors that may not have planned financially well enough, for those that are disabled, and others that may have other issues, including homelessness. So, let's get started real quick. I'm going to talk about some of the originating laws for our nation in the United States. And so the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, which does recognize adequate housing as a component of human right to an adequate standard of living. The UDHR is a non-binding declaration. So the rights to adequate housing was codified into a binding treaty law by the International Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. And for those of you who don't know, that's going to be an acronym, ICESCR, in 1966. The United States signed the ICESCR and thus must uphold the objective and purpose of this treaty, even though the United States has not yet ratified it. The United States ratified the International Convention on Civil Rights and Political Rights in 1992, and the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination in 1994, both recognizing the right to be free and free of discrimination, including housing on the basis of race and gender and disability and other status. The United States also ratified the Convention against well, I'm not going to mention that word because YouTube does not favor it, so I'm going to skip it. And protecting individuals from other forms of cruelty, inhumane activities, and degrading treatment, including criminalization of homelessness. So we have a premise, we have a foundation of what's going on here, and now I want to talk to you a little bit about, uh, when we talk about a right to housing, I think we're talking more in respect to a human right to adequate housing. And is it a right or is it a commodity? Housing is on its basis stability and security for an individual or family that's at the center of our social and emotional and sometimes economic lives. A house should be its sanctuary, a place to live where you have peace, security, and dignity. Increasingly, the view of this commodity, housing is the most important human right, and it is. For those of you who are religious, creation was creation 2,000 years ago. If you're non-religious, then as soon as the apes and monkeys, the hair fell off of them, that's probably the point in which humans probably needed housing. Not only that, but I mean inclemental weather. Let's think about this logically. Snow, cold weather, and so on. There's a reason humans can't just live outside naked. This is not the Garden of Eden anymore. So, anyways, under international law, to be adequately housed means to have a secure tenure and not to have to worry about being evicted or having your homes or lands taken away. It means living somewhere that is in keeping with your culture and having access to appropriate services, schools, and employment. Too often, violations of these rights occur with impunity. And in part, this is because at the domestic level, housing is rarely treated as a human right. The key to ensure adequate housing is the implementation of human rights through appropriate government policy and programs, including national housing strategies, or what people might commonly know as Section 8 or the Housing Authority. One of the main factors we've been facing through a pandemic is the cause of what big worldwide or national events like, we have hurricanes, we have forest fires, we have volcanoes erupting. There's many reasons in which people can be devastated. Climate change, natural disasters, armed conflicts pose a threat to those that are employed in the rights of adequate housing and displace millions every year. Infrastructure and development, hydropower dams, mega events, and many, many other events out there do affect whether or not the price of the markets. And what I mean by this, let's take a look at the overheated market. What happens when the nation is stimulated to buy too many properties and landlords don't get paid enough rent or any rent at all? Market rates go up. The cost of home goes up. The cost of rent goes up. And thus, that renders a lot of these payments and subsidies from the United States government, HUD, housing authorities, it renders it useless because often we find that those payment standards are from a older time and era. In other words, what people consider AMIs is no longer, these vouchers no longer cover the actual rents. That probably needs to be evaluated. So I think that's a small picture frame of all this, but it goes back to the first issue: is housing a human right? I think that it is. I think in all respects that we require that. We can't really live without housing, not for long. Now, I'm going to take in a few comments here. I know people are chipping away at me. Hopefully, none of the comments are too crazy. Messiah Kings, amen. Welcome to the channel and welcome back. Violet, are you? Hello, good afternoon. How are you? Messiah Kings goes on to say, and by the way, guys, I'm reading from live comments. I was served with a 10-day notice to vacate or remedy default. The landlord knows I have a disability and is violating my rights. In those cases, when you 10-day notice to vacate is a request. That is not legally enforceable unless a judge signs off on that, okay? So that's just nothing but a piece of paper that's printed out, a $4 printer out of the dollar store, okay? Until you're served by the sheriff's department with a judgment from a judge, it doesn't mean jack. It's a request, okay? You guys, let me tell you something. I work with a lot of landlords. There's a lot of things you can print out of those printers. It doesn't mean that you have to do what it says. It just means more or less it's a request. They can put all kinds of clever city seals and all kinds of bullshit on there. But until a case has actually been filed with the county office and you can verify it's been signed and paid for and dual signatures and the sheriff's come to your door, then all that is a wish list. You know, this is why Santa Claus gives gifts and a chunk of coal. If you buy into these landlord letters, and I deal with landlords that use all kinds of deceptive letters and requests, that's all it is. It's a request. Moving on, Jennifer Hamilton. And again, I'm not giving out any legal advice. I am not an attorney. Okay. I'm just giving you strictly my opinion based on the number of landlords I work with and also with clients. Jennifer Hamilton, hello. I am welcoming myself back. I need you. Well, Jennifer, I'm always here to be needed. You should reach out to me anytime. There's links to my website and booking software and all kinds of stuff about me out there. By the way, guys, I'm going to post another link today about Google. We finally got on there, and it allows you guys to leave reviews for those of you that utilize the services. As you know, my life does not hang by or is not contingent of reviews. In other words, I don't give a damn if you give me 1 star or all 500. It makes no difference. I don't buy them. I don't force them. They're there strictly for people to be able to make an informed decision, okay? I'm not going to play the review game with people. I've got lots of them, and it makes zero difference to me whether or not my business as a consultant working with people with Section 8 housing is successful or bad based on reviews. So, anyways, Messiah King goes on to say in the live chat, got to take him to court. Well, there's certainly a possibility there. Messiah Kings wants to know, where do you start? Well, I think the best step right now for you, Messiah Kings, would be to reach out to, I would type into Google housing advocate, because those are generally lawyers that just passed the bar and they can send out demand letters, okay? Which means they can fairly and represent you by law, something that a consultant cannot do because I don't have a law degree, okay? Rashia Barrow, hey, welcome to the channel. I see you're a member. So, guys, if you see in chat people that have bright colored names, or you see chat, words and sentences that are in color, it means that they're likely a member, or they've commented a lot in the channel. Okay. And the Messiah King says, "Thanks. I need the assurance. It is nice of you to be able to reach out." No problem. So, going back to the housing aspect that we're dealing with this nation, we watched it play out in California, And I think that we have a different concept of reality when it comes to housing being a right. Um, when you work all your life and you pay taxes, you're paying taxes into a federal system. Part of that federal system allows you to get Medicare, doesn't it? Nobody's accusing anybody of any racial disparities to claim that, are you? When you get to the retirement age of 60 or higher and you receive that check, it's not a free check. It's a check that you're guaranteed and you paid into. Okay. Housing vouchers and the housing program is the same thing. If you were an American and you are a naturalized citizen of this country, that is the right and privilege of those of you that need to utilize that. Okay. It is not a charity program. HUD does not run charity. Okay. It is for people that work, that pay taxes, and can utilize the system, whether it be temporary or not. Again, here's a statistic, okay? Because we have a lot of people that have political opinions and so on about this. The vast majority of all my clients are not the people that the news and newspapers and TV say are the ones that are utilizing Section 8, okay? Setting up freeloading and getting food stamp cards. The people that are actually receiving the greatest benefit of the system, the vast majority are just seniors. The world's a fast moving place. It's becoming very costly. And even though we've all tried to plan adequately for retirement, it often ends that most of us cannot afford the health care and so on. And so, by virtue, people that were medium class or medium high class, and even in some cases high class, end up at some point becoming victim to just having to accept the service for housing vouchers. Okay. And so that is what it is. You should never be ashamed of being an American. If you can't accept a voucher, then you're ashamed of being American. Whether you need it for a day or a week or a month or a year, it's there to help people that need it. People that are born without eyes and legs and arms, do you think that they're a cockroach because they need housing? No. So I think that we have a lot of mental illness in the country with people that turn it's political because they really don't have a firm grasp. These are the same people that work all their life. They say all these naughty little things and discourage the concept of housing vouchers and so on. And then the reality is the minute they get slammed by an 18 wheeler or have half their body chopped off at work, then guess who's running around like roaches and rats and snakes looking for a voucher quietly? The same people that would argue the point to me today that this is not a right. Well, it is if you pay taxes. So I'm afraid I'll have to defend it, you know. And I think that California will be the first state in the United States in our union that will likely make that actual a reality. I believe that California at this point has 58,000 vouchers. That's 58,000 people that may be working part time, full time, or just simply working and still low income, or have no income, or disabled. Or maybe these are children that have aged out of um, being into a program where they were adopted and so on. And so they have to utilize the system. Why? Because they didn't have parents that could afford to go buy them a car and set them up with a fancy job and pay their tuition. So they get kicked out at 18 with nothing at all, a bag. And so they have to utilize the system to get them through, you know? We're far too fucking judgmental in this country, is really my opinion. If I had to summarize that, the nonsense and the things I hear. I've got friends in Europe, and they have half the attitude that Americans do. We've turned this to so much chaos behind this subject matter, and the reality is, people really should just fucking mind their own business and let people need to do what they need to do. If they need reasonable accommodation and housing, then that's their God given right, unless they weren't born here and they're not an American. So it's I'm not asking anybody to agree with me, but it's an aggravating concept. What's going to happen one day when something even more devastating than this pandemic hits this country, and then people by virtue are forced out of their jobs, and then really need these vouchers? Then will the mood change? That's the thing, folks. We're all born here. One day you wake up. Nobody asked to come to Earth. You take your first breath. You may have been born with 190 IQ. You might have been born with developmental delays. Should we tell all the babies that have an IQ of a 30, let's go throw them in a dumpster because you don't deserve to have a voucher? Should we tell everybody that's old that their husband passed away, they didn't have the money to retire correctly? Should we tell them, nope, throw her in the woods? She's trash. She needs a voucher. You see what the problem is? It doesn't stand up to the tests of morals and ethics. It doesn't at all. And I find it quite frustrating for families, for people, for communities, for the many different ethnic groups in our country. We all are, after all, Americans, right? So we do have so many different people that migrated this country hundreds of years ago. All right, guys. So I think I went on my tear. I've really tried to avoid profanities for 2022 in my videos, but there are some subject matters that do hit the core of what I believe. It's easy to sit in a nice home with a beautiful job, making 120 a year, and then to sit there and Facebook it all day. How you think everybody's trash that has to take a voucher or accept food stamps, And if I actually gave you the numbers as to the people that actually receive these services, you would find that it is middle-aged white folks that utilize more vouchers and food stamp cards than any other race and person in this nation. So it's quite the contradiction for those people that like to troll my channel. That is the reality. See the numbers. Okay. All right, guys. So I'm going to entertain questions today about Section 8, low income housing and affordable housing. If you guys are struggling with that, or you're struggling with a terrible landlord, or you're struggling with a housing authority that's too busy, halfway closed, you can't get answers, that's a lot of what I do. Not to be confused with being an attorney. I don't fight cases in courts and all that, but I work with clients throughout the year. I also work with landlords that are struggling. There's lots of landlords that want to be a landlord, but they've been spooked away because the news says that everybody that's got a voucher moves in their property is going to burn it down and tear it up. And so we all know how well the news tells the truth. They like to glamorize anything that's shock value. Look, I've got landlords with hundreds of units. I could think of a fraction of 1% where somebody would sit there and let's think about this logically. You've got a person that barely has any money. They desperately want a voucher. They're going to wait 10 years to get it. And then the first thing on their mind is, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to rip all the appliances out and pawn them at the pawn shop. I'm going to get a crack pipe and smoke it. And then I'm going to burn the house down. How many people do you think do that? It's nonsense. And that's what the news delivers. This is why I constantly have to talk to landlords to help them understand that is not how most people operate. Now, if you're a landlord and you didn't do your due diligence and you just allowed any old fool to come in your house without doing criminal checks and other things to gauge their moral aptitude, then you get what you get. If they tear it up, burn it down, or they start prostituting, okay? And that's the landlords that get themselves in the most trouble. They allow their greed and their inability to pay their own mortgage. They didn't plan properly, so they took the first thing that rolled off the street with a voucher in there. So there is a small fraction. Life's not perfect, is it? But let's be honest, because that's what I'm doing in this channel. I'm going to deliver it. If you want somebody that's going to sugarcoat shit, you won't find it in this channel. That's I don't have time for that. There's too many people that lie to everybody on YouTube. So you might as well, if it offends your ears, you're in the wrong place, man. You need to go back to talk to your friends that lie to you, because I'm not going to do it. All right, so I'm going to move on to some comments here since we're having fun today. About Russ, my housing doesn't repair, but yet demand rent. Well, while I would suggest that you make an adequate record of making sure that you're putting everything in paper, you're emailing or you're actually mailing the stuff there, so you see that you have a record of requests. And then if they fail to do anything about that, then you can probably submit them for an inspection through the city or state and then take the necessary steps. It's important that you're taking and recording the process and doing necessary steps in the correct order. Otherwise, it's not going to be taken seriously. Making phone calls isn't going to get it, okay? There's no matter of record or proof to phone calls. You could literally trade insults on the phone, and there's no record of that. So, and I think there's probably you can't record people on the phone all the time, not without their permission. Maria Clay, welcome to the channel. I'm interested in some kind of housing like HOC and will be approved. And I'm an immigrant in the state, and I have two under the age of 5, autistic that are autistic. Okay, so your children on the spectrum. Well, there's a lot of people that immigrate in the nation. There's a lot more people that continue to immigrate to the United States every day. That's what makes us the United States. So, welcome to America. I've got clients from every Let me tell you something. When you look at my analytics of my channel, I've got clients from 41 nations. Talked to a lady the other day. She's a dual citizen, South Korea. Talked to another from Philippines, another from, what was it? Cairo, Egypt. Okay. Sometimes people come and go. Sometimes, and I got a lot of clients that were British first, then American, and then went back to Britain. So I see a lot of different situations. So that's what makes it neat. So, and if you ever talk to my New Yorkers, you're talking about a whole community. It's like having every nation in Europe move into New York. So it's interesting. Um, so, Marie Clay, I think that if you're legally here in the United States with your children, that you certainly, I don't know your age, but I would suggest that you probably could utilize the Section 811 program or the mainstream housing choice voucher. Um, Marie Clay says, I try to apply for Maryland. Maryland's a particularly tough state. It's not, Maryland's tough, and their system's a little bit more complicated than your average state. So I'd say stick with that. Trina Graham is laughing loud, I suppose, and I see smiley faces in the live chat. So I see lots of thumbs ups and waves, and Maria Clay says she's 42. So today I'm not going to make this a special long video. I just wanted to express some of my strong opinions. If y'all watch some of my older videos, I used to go on tirades. And what I mean by that is I don't mind delivering, using profanities and getting right to the point. I've calmed down immensely since 2020. We went through a lot in 2020 and 2019 with the pandemic, housing authorities shutting their doors but collecting billions of dollars. I had a real problem with that. And as you know, all that money the government wrote out to help people assisted with their rent, only 6.2% of that rent money ever made it to anybody. They ended up giving all that money back. And what did we do with all those billions of dollars, that one lifetime gift of billions to help with the rent and housing while people desperately lost their homes and businesses? We swept it right back under the rug, and now we're going to go polish the highway with it. You heard me correctly. We're going to go fix a bridge or pave the highway. We don't have time to fix anybody's business. We're not interested in helping with housing or help people keep their homes. We're more interested in polishing the tarmac. So we withdrew. I think a fair estimation would have been 93.8% of all the money that was issued, and we'll suck it all back up and build a fucking road that won't do anything for anybody. Welcome to America. Sometimes it's great to be here. Sometimes it's tough to accept it, and other days it's terrible. Either way, you take the good, the bad, no matter where you live. All right, guys. If y'all have no further questions, I'm gonna probably start wrapping up the video. I just wanted to express one thing, that California is moving towards as housing as a right there. If they pass them, and they probably will be the first state to pass that legislation, they do so, then I believe that it will start to solve some of the housing crisis out there. And I think that this is where we're congregating a lot of our population in states like California and Florida. What's in those two states? Lots of blue water, right? Problem is, too many people retiring in these sunshiny places in the U.S. is causing the populations are just too big to support the economics, and it's causing a lot of problems. And of course, homeless people aren't crazy either. They're not going to move out in the mountains in the middle of America. They're not going to move out in the mountains in Montana. I mean, even homeless people smart enough to know you're going to go wherever the food or the donations are. So that's probably another issue that we're dealing with, is the great homeless populations that are across the nation. And we've solved it a few times to a point. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to, readdress that issue. Brittany Madero, woot, hi, hey, welcome back. Good Redmond, thank you so much, Jay, for all your help. Moving into your home February 1st from homelessness. There's another brother off the street. There's another gentleman, actually, Good Redmond and I worked together for a little bit. So he looks like he's going to be taking up housing and exiting the homeless market. When people get housing, it means they're no longer homeless. They're no longer so much of a burden or a stress to society. It means it allows them an opportunity to move on. People have to have a place to live, to take a shower. When's the last time you hired somebody that didn't take a shower for a month? You got to have a stable place to live and operate in order to be able to be productive in society. And so I think that those opportunities should be granted. And I think that in a lot of ways, the Europe and UK is getting part of that right. They're definitely a little bit more They're able to control it better, I think, in Europe with the examples I've been seeing. Don't get me wrong, they have a shitty system too. It's just not as bad as ours. Messiah King's comments in the channel. I will be looking for legal counsel if I can't find housing advocate for free of charge. I'll also book a working appointment. Understood. I hope you do find a housing advocate that can help you at least with the demand letters and to guide you, because it's not so much something that a consultant should really be involved in that particular aspect. I think that they would be able to shoot out letters a lot quicker in that respect. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up. It's like a pretty quiet night, and I didn't anticipate this being a hugely popular topic, but I'm glad I got to speak on it a little bit. Now, there's one thing I'm going to let you all know is starting Monday, I will be transitioning over to Arkansas, driving over there, and taking a look at the house and land that I bought over there, and looking at what the repairs and so on that need to be done. For those of you that are not familiar with this Arkansas, me moving from Houston to Arkansas, I'll tell you a short story. So we have a house and piece of land that I've never seen go up at auction for pennies on a dollar. The problem with these type of auctions are you don't know if the house even exists. I could be buying and auctioning and winning a bid against a property with no house. I was able to confirm there isn't. It's a 1,762 square foot home there. Now, I'm under no disillusion. The windows could be broke out. The house may have not been lived in for 8 years. There could be all kinds of problems. The house could have suffered a fire or flood. People could have been doing naughty things in that house. They could have tore it up, ripped out the copper. Who knows? But as far as I can tell, the house is very much intact. It doesn't appear to have more than one broke window. And to be frank with you, for about $1,000, I'm not too worried. When's the last time you bought a 1,700 square foot house on a double lot for $1,000? So I'm going to be taking footage of that, and I think we'll all have fun with that. And I believe the home was built in the 50s or 60s. I'm fine with that. This house was bought for the concept of me being able to probably going to try to contain the living room, the kitchen, and one bathroom, and then seal off the rest of the home. It's too big. This is a place called home base while we utilize the additional property I bought in the Ozarks. It's up a few hours up in northern Arkansas. And what I'm going to do over there is unfelded property, so that means all the trees are there. We have one electric pole, dirt road, and so on. And so it's beautiful country. And I'm going to build a house out there. So this other house that I got at auction, that'll be the home base while I slowly whittle away at building over there. So I had the option. You can go buy a $200,000-$300,000 house and then be stuck in a note for 89 years. And then every time you make money, you give it to the mortgage man. But I'm debt free. I don't owe a penny on my car. I don't owe a penny on this house. I don't owe a penny to nothing. My bills are my food, my gas, my phone, and so on. Of course, business costs and so on. But compared to the average Joe, I don't owe anybody jack. You see? And the reason I wanted to make this part of the channel, the process of building the house out slowly, for those of you that consider utilizing your voucher to buy a house, or even buying an inexpensive house so you don't have to pay a landlord ever again. Look, the land that I bought out there in the Ozarks, the tax bill is $2.37 a year. It's homestead land, unincorporated. Yeah, I've got no fire, no police, but you see the point. It's when you try to push yourself in the big city that's when you're going to pay $1 million for a rundown house. It's a hell of a lot worse condition than probably what we're going to see when I arrive over there in central Arkansas. So I think I made the right choice in that respect. And it'll be a hell of an adventure. And what else am I going to do in my mid 40s to 50s? Repair a house, enjoy the cats out there, and so on. So it'll be interesting for all of us to see it. And for those of you that are considering transitioning from a housing choice voucher and also other social programs, then it allows you to have the inspiration to see what you might be able to do to buy some inexpensive land and build your own home, little by little, or do it the way you need to. At least you get to see it. All right, so I'm going to take a look, see if there's any other comments here. Serge Seal says, what are preferences? Preferences are specific criteria that the housing authority sees as important. If the housing authority says it's got 20 preferences, and one of them is they prefer to have people apply that are seniors, 62 and older, then they're going to give you possibly a higher position on the waiting list. There are a lot of different preferences, and each housing authority selects the ones that they like. The more of those you meet, the better the opportunity you have to get what you need. All right. That being said, I've enjoyed talking with y'all, and y'all have a great night. We'll talk again one more time Sunday, and then from the 25th to the 28th, I will not be making any videos. There will be no consulting, no phone calls, and no text. I can only be doing one thing out there in Arkansas, and that's dealing with Arkansas in an house. Again, if you're one of my clients, and I've got a lot, no smoke signals, no telepathy, uh, no pigeons. Okay, I got to think of lots of things. Some of y'all get interesting. How you trying to send messages? Okay, no kites, no drones, calls, text, none of that. Not doing any of that. Okay, whatever it is, you're gonna have to hold your breath till I get back. You know, I worked. Let me tell you something, guys. I worked all the way through 2020. They like to kill me with these consults. I did so many that I was working all the way through the day, and there were several times I was just wore out. I'm going down there to do Arkansas. I'm not going to deal with any nonsense right now. Everybody's case is fine. I'm catching up everybody's stuff for Sunday. So, yeah, there won't be none of that. Can I get a 5 minute conversation while I'm in Arkansas? Okay. If it was up to me, I'd move that house next to, I'd go and chop down the signal tower. That way I don't have to get a text. It's not that bad. I'm just saying. All right, guys, I'm going to get on up here and y'all enjoy your time. We'll see you again Sunday. And then after that, I will see y'all when I get back from Arkansas. Okay. Thank you. Good night.